Good evening and welcome to another webinar featuring Dr. Demartini. It's such a pleasure to have you here this evening, this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. The topic for this webinar is the 8 success secrets of high achievers. My name is Brandon Tankott, and I'll be here to host you for the next hour of this webinar. I myself have been an entrepreneur and been in personal development for maybe the last 10 years, although we never stopped working ourselves. So I think I've been in personal development for the last 36 years, both trial and error here and there. And during all of that time, I think the most profound, or one of the most profound speakers that I've come to know is, and become a fantastic mentor to me, is Dr. John Demartini, who is an incredible speaker. And as a humble student of his, I've spent quite a bit of time trying to understand and go through his courses, his teachings, his lessons, and I found that it's made remarkable differences in how I operate my business, my life, my family. And I hope that during this webinar, you'll be exposed to those same considerations. So without any further ado, I want to introduce you to John, who is one of the world's leading authorities of human behavior and personal development. He has over 72 different courses covering multiple aspects of human development, and his trademark methodologies, which are housed with the Dr. Demartini Institute. Over 44 years of cross-disciplinary research and study has gone into his work. This is a man who travels 360 days a year to countries all around the globe. So really what I would like you to do, if I could give you any tip today in this webinar, is to make sure that you have a pen and paper ready. Please feel free to ask any questions you may have. There is a little chat box to the right-hand side of the webinar, so feel free to engage us. The Demartini team is live and willing to assist in questions that John may not personally be able to answer. So I'd recommend you take lots of notes, get those questions ready. John, welcome, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Welcome too. I thank you for hosting and organizing this.
Excellent. What we're going to be doing, John, to go through this, I've prepared a few questions from my side because I know 1 hour is a very short amount of time to be able to get through the vast amounts of knowledge that you have acquired over your years. So I've just put together a few questions that help us get through that a lot quicker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into those questions straight away, and feel free to talk as long or as little as you want, and then we'll interject and we'll see how we can shape the webinar from there. Great. So the topic, like we said, is the 8 success secrets of high achievers. But firstly, John, could you define for us do you see true achievement as?
Well, each individual lives by a set of priorities, set of values that are unique to them. And each person, therefore, has something that's most meaningful, most important, and highest on their value that's unique. And the fulfillment of that comes in the form of what's unique to them. Some people's highest success or high achievement would be raising a beautiful family and having an extraordinary outcome with children. Some people would be dedicated to social causes, social political objectives. Some people would be business and creating entrepreneurship or serial entrepreneurship and creating vast fortunes of doing that. Others would be just purely accumulating wealth. I mean, Warren Buffett, when he was 11 years old, had already read all the books in the Omaha, Nebraska library. So he was obviously committed, and his highest value was that, and he achieved that. Some are dedicated to intellectual pursuits. I guess mine is a combination of intellectual pursuits and business. Some are dedicated to physical fitness. I just did a filming with Ashley Bynes in Australia recently, and she's an expert in physical fitness and keeping absolute performance, peak performance. Some are on spiritual quest. Some are on purely social causes. So no matter what area that's highest on your value, the pursuit of that and the consistent achievement of that would be considered high achieving. And there are people that look up to each of those areas. Many people, because of the universality of wealth building, perceives people that have fortunes as successful or large businesses, but it does not limit itself to that. True wealth is really encompassing all 7 areas of life. So high achievement could be in any area. And you can also achieve in multiple areas, and in fact, all the areas. I know definitely individuals, and I feel that I'm in part of that category, of actually going out to master all of them. I've spent my life, the last 44 years, most of my life, dedicated to helping people master their life and empowering all 7. But some people are targeted to 1, some a couple, maybe 3. There's no rules on it, but whatever achievement is, it's based on what they value most, and it's the pursuit of that and the accomplishment of that, whatever that is. And it's not necessarily what other people think about us. It's about what we think about us too. Although it usually is reflected on the world on the outside because it's mastered on the inside.
Okay, so to summarize, you would say it is more important to focus on not just 2 or 3 of the 7 areas of life, but to focus on all 7.
Well, any area of our life that we don't empower and expand is an area that somebody else is going to overpower and govern. And if we don't govern ourselves, we get overgoverned. People that are completely out of control within and their emotions usually end up being controlled by outer sources. So any area of our life we don't empower, we're going to be ruled by somebody else. And so mastery of life is mastery of all of them. But that does not mean that you're anything less as a human being by targeting one. I know a gentleman who's an adventurous, who is an amazing guy, who's in Ireland, who has climbed Mount Everest 4 times, climbed the top 7 peaks twice, literally walked to the North and South Pole, and his highest focus is adventure. He's an adventurist. He's swam down the Amazon. He's done amazing things. His highest value is that. In other areas of his life, there's also spillover and greatness, but he's really targeted on adventure objectives. So I don't want to, it's what you believe success is in your mind, that's what it is. You don't want to subordinate to anybody else's definition of success. You want to give yourself permission to go after the success that you define. I have people all the time projecting their values onto me and trying to make me do what they think is successful, and I stick to what I know is what I'm committed to. So it could be all 7, it could be one of those 7, but your goal is to try to master as many areas of your life as possible. But you don't want to negate yourself by saying, okay, I want to put a heck of a lot of energy into 2 areas or 3 areas. Nothing wrong with that. And delegate the rest. That's a high achievement.
Fantastic. I mean, I haven't swam down the Amazon or climbed those types of peaks before, but what would you say, what role does fear play in terms of the levels of achievement people can attain?
Well, most people think of fear as something they want to get rid of. I've gained a different perspective on it over the years. I like to think of as fear is a feedback to let us know that we're setting goals that are not completely objective, not balanced, or not ours. And what that usually means that we're setting an unrealistic expectation to live in a one-sided way, or to expect ourselves to live in a way that's not in line with our highest value, or we're expecting to go after something we haven't strategized. And fear pops up as a response to let us know that we need to get balanced in our perspective. We want to make sure that it's aligned with our highest value, so it's more probable of achievement. We want to make sure that it's strategized and structured down and broken down into small enough bites where it's in space and time horizons that we will act on. Otherwise, we are designed to have a phobia to let us know as a feedback that we're not really concise and clear on our objective. So I don't have this idea that, oh, I need to get rid of all my fears. I'm going to use my fear as a guide to make sure I'm setting real objectives. The moment I have a balanced objective that's aligned with my values, that's strategized, my fear goes away. So it's there as a friend if it's used wisely. Now, if we have this fantasy hedonistically that we're supposed to be, living in philic, manic states and supposed to be, positive, pleasure, easy, things like that, phobia is going to come and be our reminder that that's a delusion. The real objectives, a real objective is a balanced state. I always say that when you're setting a goal and you're strategically planning it, the purpose of the planning is to mitigate the risks, so you're willing to tackle the challenges that inspire you instead of having to try to avoid them and then keep attracting challenges that don't inspire you. So I use the fear as a reminder, as a friend, not as something I need to, condemn. So many people are thinking, well, I have fear, there's something wrong with me. You have a biological need for fear anytime you're setting fantasies as objectives. So
So that's a fantastic way of looking at it, and it leads perfectly into our next question, which is, I think, personally as an entrepreneur, one of the biggest fears is the fear of failure. And what would you say to someone who's had the experience of trying something, going for it, and failing, lost a lot of confidence, and they don't necessarily believe in themselves anymore? How do they harness that ability to achieve at that high level?
Well, this is going to sound probably different than what many people expect, but if you're pursuing something that is truly congruent with what you value most, you do not stop. You just keep overcoming any obstacle. And you will go under it, you will go around it, you'll go above it, you'll power through it. You will not stop. So if you're feeling like you failed, that's a sign that you're pursuing something that's not truly most meaningful to you. Anytime you're doing something that's high in your values, you have incredible capacities, spontaneous inspiration to plow through any challenges that come along your way. And you'll see them on the way, not in the way. You'll see them as feedback, not as a block. But if you're pursuing something that you think you should be doing or ought to be doing, some sort of imperative that you've subordinated to other people and injected into your life, and it's not highest on your value, you'll tend to do it if it's easy, and if it's difficult, you'll give up. And then you'll think you're a failure. And then that failure is actually a feedback mechanism to let you know that you set a goal that wasn't yours. That's the beauty of it. So there's 7 basic fears that most people are governed by. The fear of not being smart enough or intelligent enough to pursue what you want, which means you're going after something that's not highest on your value, because things that are high on your values, you gain specialized knowledge in. You want to learn it. The second is they fear that you might fail because you don't have strategic plans laid out and you're not following those plans, and you're more impulsive and running by an animal behavior instead of a real executive behavior. And these are all a result of comparing yourself to other people who have a different set of values, and you're expecting to live in their values. This is a symptom of it. The third one is the fear that you might not make money on it, or you might lose money on it. This is usually because you haven't really thought through the plan and thought of how it's really going to serve people. And many entrepreneurs start this because they go after something that they think the world needs instead of finding out what the world's actually asking for. And they're projecting assumptions kind of in a self-righteous manner onto the world, assuming they know what the world needs. The real reality is the world will tell you what it needs, and if you deliver it, it buys it. You don't have a lack of money. The fourth one is the fear that you might lose loved ones over it, respective loved ones. I've worked with that just this weekend, where a gentleman said, "I really love to do something like that, but right now with the kids that I have and my wife, she'd disown me if I tackled my own company. I better have security." And so he was letting the security and the fear of losing loved ones stop him. This is very common. Again, this is subordination to somebody that you're afraid to be without. And this can undermine people. But again, it's a feedback to, again, you're not living in your values. You're trying to live in somebody else's values again. The next is the fear of rejection. And this is because you're subordinating to somebody else as if their opinion is more important about you than you are and your opinion. I'd rather have the whole world against me than my own soul. I'd rather have confidence in myself by living congruently than worrying about what people think about me. I am bombarded and attacked. Yeah, just yesterday evening when I finished my breakthrough experience in New York, I had some Jewish group, some lovely people from the Jewish community there, make some comment about some of the comments I made in the program, and said that you might consider not doing those comments. And again, and I said, thank you. If you see me not following your instructions, please know that I'm probably unworthy of any more comments. In other words, thank you, but no thank you. And then the next one is the fear of worrying about your health, or not having the looks or the beauty or the vitality to go after what you want. And many people think, well, I couldn't do it because I don't have that guy's energy. They're usually comparing themselves to other people that have energy and are happen to be doing something they're inspired by. But all that energy goes up when you're doing something that's really in priority. And the last one is the fear of breaking the morals and ethics of some spiritual authority. What you have is people that think that somebody else is more spiritual than you. I always say that in the breakthrough experience that nobody's more spiritual or less spiritual. They just have inspiration in their own values. And if we compare ourselves to others, we're going to think that they're more or less spiritual than us, and that's a judgment that blocks our own spiritual awareness. But subordinating to somebody else's values and then trying to live in their values will be an undermining of our power. And so, we have the fear of somehow not living up to other people's moralities or something. And I learned a long time ago that studying morals and ethics, that there is no universal morals and ethics other than the synthesis and synchronicity of opposites being the highest priority. And so I don't necessarily worry about what other people think about me. I just go and do what I feel inspired by. But these 7 fears are all subordinations to people and the injunctions of other people's values into our life and injections. And then we try to set a goal according to that instead of our own highest values. And then as a result, we don't have the drive, the intrinsic value, the intrinsic inspiration to pursue the outcome. And we're not in the executive center where we have the greatest creativity and solutions to whatever happens. And so this is important. And it's always, everything that's going on in life is trying to guide us to be living congruently. I'm convinced of that now, that anything on the inside of our physiology, our psychology, our sociology on the outside, and really the world around us is actually trying to help us live congruently and live authentically. And once we see that, we can be grateful for whatever happens, because it's actually a feedback mechanism.
That's brilliant, John. And I think from my side, I can see that what I've said there, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the number one block then to someone's high achievement would be their values. So could you explain a little bit more on how your values relate to achievement? If that
well, this is one of the 8 secrets, success secrets of high achievers. This is really number one, because so many people pursue objectives, or actually subjectives, fantasies, what they think are goals instead of, they're actually fantasies, they're not goals really. A true goal is balanced. A fantasy is an imbalanced objective, or an imbalanced pursuit. And they try to do something that's not really valuable to them, and then they end up self-defeating. And that is feedback to let them know that they're going to keep getting that response until they set a goal that's true and authentic to them. You know, if a young boy loves his video games, he will stay all night working on it. And he will pursue that, achieve that, and won't stop till he gets his outcome, and then achieve the video game, and then go on to find more tackling, bigger and more challenging video games. But if he sets a goal to clean his room, or do his homework, or something else that's not highest on his value, he'll procrastinate, give up easily, and need to be motivated and reminded to do it. And this is the classical symptoms of what people do in their life. Whenever they're trying to be, they envy somebody else, they try to imitate somebody else, they try to live in somebody else's values, and then they wonder why they're not driven intrinsically from within. And so the key success secret is first identifying what your highest values and your values are, your hierarchy of values, and getting clear and looking at what's really, really, truly what your life demonstrates is important to you. Every time in the breakthrough experience, every weekend, I just basically bang that into everybody's minds, because they're so often, they keep setting goals that aren't theirs. One of the things that I did in the 1980s and 90s when I asked people around the world speaking, what's the most common question that you want to ask me? The most common question is, how do I stay focused? If you're having to be reminded to stay focused and having to have used gimmicks to stay focused, you're setting goals that aren't really highest on your values. Nobody has to motivate me or remind me to get up and do my research and teaching. When you're doing something that's absolutely congruent, you're inspired from within, you're congruent with it, you stay focused on it, you don't get distracted, because you only get distracted from something that's lower on your values to something that's highest on your values. And you're labeling it a distraction because you're striving for something that's not highest. But the second you are setting high goals on high values, you're in the flow, you're in the zone, your executive center comes online. And so this is the most common question. How do I stay focused? Because they're pursuing things that aren't really theirs. And that's why I don't have to worry about staying focused, because I'm doing something that is absolutely inspiring to me and I love doing, and you don't need to be reminded to do that. And that's the key. So first, at every breakthrough experience, I make sure that people go through and determine their values. And I have a value determination process that I do in the breakthrough experience. And it's also on my online if people want to do it. And I highly recommend it. I do it every quarter to determine what is truly your life demonstrates as valuable. Not the fantasies, but the real, what does your life truly demonstrate that you spontaneously do, that nobody has to remind you to do, that you can't wait to get up in the morning and do, that you know is inspiring to you, that you get a tear in the eye when you think about it and you want to go after it. When you can't wait to get up and do that, that's the and you structure your life that way, that's one of the keys to success. So first, determining your values and looking at exactly what your hierarchy of values is, because the hierarchy of your values dictates your destiny. So if you want an inspiring destiny, you need to know that. That's the first success secret.
Fantastic, John. And just quickly before we get into the actual topic of the webinar, because these are questions that sort of lead to that, and if you touched on values, how would I determine the values? Is there a process, or is there something that you could do that could help someone determine their values?
Well, that's
I think I know what mine are, but
I'll do it briefly. I've outlined it in another webinar, but I look at what your life demonstrates. You know, if you ask somebody on the street, and I've done this, I don't know how many times, you know, what do you value? What do you believe your values are? Most of them will tell you social idealisms and platitudes that they've heard from outer authorities or special individual authorities in their life. And they'll say things like integrity, honesty, and things of this nature. And I know that they don't know what values really are when they say that. Not that that can't be a value, it's just that that's rarely what a life demonstrates. What I usually say is let's look at what your life demonstrates. And so I go through and I look at how a person fills their space and how they spend their time and what energizes them. Because when they're doing something that's really high in their values, they're energized. What do they spend their money on? Highest priority things they spend their money on. Where they're most organized, where they're most disciplined. What do they think about, visualize, and affirm internally to themselves about how they want their life that's showing evidence of coming true? What do they converse with other people about most? What is it that they're inspired by? And what's common to the people who inspire them? And what is the most consistent, persistent goals that they're pursuing that are coming true? And what is it they love learning about? Those are indicators and determinants of what your really life demonstrates is valuable to you. So setting a goal that's not aligned with what is a summary of those value determinants is automatically going to increase the fears, the phobias, the distractions, and all the things that most people live by. And that's what keeps people from empowering their life. So you want to go through and actually determine what your life demonstrates. Because if I look at my life demonstrating it, yesterday I spoke from, I believe, about 9 in the morning to, I went till midnight last night, and I got on a flight. We left at 4 this morning. And so, you know, my life demonstrates that I teach. If you look at what your life demonstrates and start with what you know your life demonstrates and structure your life around that, you're going to go way farther and accelerate way more powerfully than if you just take assumptions and fantasies and, oh my God, I like that person, I think I'll try to be that. That's not it. You got to find out you. When Vogue magazine interviewed me one time recently, they said, you know, Dr. Demartini, if there's anybody on the planet you'd like to be, who would you like to be? And I said, I looked at him with a puzzled question. Why on earth would I want to be anybody but me? And any interest in being is me. And they go, oh, nobody's ever said that before. I couldn't believe it. But why would you want to be anybody but you? You're the most magnificent person that you look in the mirror at if you can be honest with yourself. You want to be able to say, I love you the way you are. You want to be able to be inspired by who you are. That's it. You want to be able at the end of your life, be able to say, wow, I did everything I could with everything I was given. I'm doing it. And so that's the keys. Being really, really clear about what it is that's really you value.
And that is our first success secret of high achievers, is determine your values. Understanding the hierarchy and the highest values is really important, John. And number 2 on 8 success secrets of high achievers, sometimes I struggle to say that, the clarity of your highest value and purpose to serve. So number 2 in our 8 success secrets is the purpose to serve. John, could you elaborate a little bit more on that for us?
Well, the brain is set up with a sensory cortex and a motor cortex, and also interfibers, interneurons, commissural associative fibers. And the brain, in my opinion, is set up, designed for motor actions and sensory input. The motor actions are designed to be of service because your deserve level is based on your serve level. And if you go and serve vast numbers of people, you have the opportunity to have vast dollars in your life and vast rewards in your life. Anybody who's done anything that's been of service to people knows when they're doing something that's meaningful and serves other people and makes a difference in people's lives and fulfills their values, they feel fulfilled. And they can't wait to get up in the morning and do more of that. And they also have a sensory cortex that's involved in rewards, where they actually get to receive in their world of senses what they want in life. And you don't get what you want in life unless you go and serve people. So there's a necessity of serving. Now, the thing that's most fulfilling to serve that you can't wait to get up in the morning and doing is what's highest on your value. That's the thing you spontaneously are inspired from within to do. That's what I call the telos from the ancient Greek term. Chief aim, as Napoleon Hill called it. The primary objectives. This is the most important thing in our life. In my case, it's teaching. I can't wait to get up in the morning and do that. And so finding out what that is and structuring life that way and dedicating your life in a way that you're serving people with it. And I'm a believer. I've yet to see anybody who can come up with something that's highest on a value that we can't figure out a way of making it a vast service to people. Because somebody needs whatever it is that you're dedicated to. So it's about structuring it, it's about packaging it, it's about marketing it in such a way that it meets true needs. So the best thing to do is go out in the world and find out what are people searching for on Google and search engines and things. What are they looking for? What are they needing? If you find out what people are needing, what the vast numbers of people are doing, and find out the area where it overlaps what you can't wait to give to the world and what you want to do in the world, and find your targeted niche, and then grow and expand from that, you've got a vast possibility there sitting there to do something that's amazing and actually getting rewarded for it. And so many people have a Monday morning blue, Wednesday hump day, thank God it's Friday, week friggin' end in their life. And they've got a schizophrenic life. They're doing something that's uninspiring. They don't want to do it. They're not engaged. They want to escape. They want coffee, tea, and stimulants to get away from a boring job. And then what they do is they save up a little bit of money, which they're not really making piles of money because they're not inspired by what they do. And then what happens is they go out and then they go blow it on a vacation or an escape so they can get some dopamine fix to feel better about life. And then they're trapped going back to work doing something they don't want to do. And it's a schizophrenic life. Their vocation and vacation is not the same. And the truth is they can't be the same. And that's the mastery of life, on how to structure your life in such a way where you're doing something you're inspired to do and you can't wait to get up in the morning and do it. As Warren Buffett says, he taps stands to work. I know that Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are classical examples of doing things that they love doing. And I've met people, Bill Pollack from Drake International, same way. He works 18 hours a day. He loves what he's doing. Tom Jones is the same way. He loves what he's doing. He loves singing. He's still singing 50-something, 60 years into the game. And so this is the key, is finding out that so you don't have to work. You're going to do what you love, and your vacation and vocation are one and the same. And this occurs by identifying clearly what that highest value is, which is the second success secret of high achievers. Finding out what's really, really, really so important to you that you'll do whatever it takes, travel the distance, and pay the price to give that service. And when you have that, you don't have to worry about achievements. It's going to be a spontaneous thing. You can't imagine yourself not doing it. Whenever you're setting goals that are aligned with the highest values, your blood glucose and oxygen goes into the executive center, the forebrain, the medial prefrontal cortex, the telencephalon area of the brain, and you get inspired visions, you see strategic plans, you get into executing those plans, and you are governed. You don't let the animal nature inside you that wants immediate gratification stop you from a long-term vision. In that state, that's where you are unstoppable. That's where all of a sudden you see in your mind's eye your destiny. You have a vision that's so clear that no obstacles can interfere with it. You're not clouded by the injected values of other people because you're living authentic to your own values and not clouded by injections. There you have a clear vision. And a lot of people plateau in their businesses because they don't have clear vision. And so that being really concise on that highest value and knowing exactly what it is, and then taking the time to structure your life around that. And that's, so many people don't take the time to do it. They plan for vacation more than they plan for their life. That's one of the reasons I keep teaching people the Master Planning for Life program, to help people get in that executive center and go out and do something. They will get more done. It's been proven over and over again. People that do that get more accomplished. So identifying your values is the first success secret, and clarifying the top one, and so clear that you see it in your mind's eye, and structuring it in a way that actually can be of service to people so you can't wait to get up and serve people is very powerful second step.
Thank you, John. And I think in my own life, I think that's been one, and it leads perfectly into number 3, is understanding how you plan and set your goals based on your values. And that number 3 of the 8 success secrets of high achievers is exactly that, strategic planning. Could you elaborate a little bit further on why strategic planning is so important to a high achiever?
The purpose of planning Okay, so I want us to imagine that every event in life is a magnet. And the magnet has two poles. Even though the magnet is actually neutral, it appears to have two poles, a positive, negative end. Every event has that. Every outcome in life has that. Benefits, drawbacks, positive, negatives, etc. Anytime you're trying to set a goal that's one-sided, you try to have one positive side without a negative side, you have a fantasy. Anytime you try to avoid anything of an event because you think it's got more negatives than positives, you have a nightmare. Whenever you're setting a goal, a true goal includes both poles. That's called objectivity. And objectivity means even-mindedness. And if you set a goal, which isn't really a goal, but a fantasy, then all you're doing is looking at the positive outcomes. And a lot of positive thinkers out there that live in that delusion that I just want to look at the positive, I don't want to look at the negative, will never build a giant building, never build a great bridge, never achieve anything great with fantasies. You have to stop and ask, what obstacles might I run into and how do I solve them in advance? What are the challenges that I will face? And you have to have foresight. We're rewarded by foresight. That's what the Executive Center is about. Foresight, not hindsight. Learning from hindsight is pursuing a pleasure and then attracting a pain and go, ooh, I didn't expect that. And you have to learn by trial and error, and you have to react to it in impulse and instinct reactions. But foresight is using your intuition and your reason to plan out what are the challenges and obstacles that are actually real that you're going to face, and then actually thinking about how you will solve them in advance and mitigate the risks that are there. There's never a reward without a risk. There's never a pleasure without a pain. Never a positive without a negative. There's always two sides. And a true goal encompasses those two sides. And strategic planning is there for one purpose, to dissolve fantasies and turn them into real goals. And then prepare for the challenges, because the phobias that come with the fantasies are mitigated the second you set the goals, mitigate the risk, there's no more fear. You solved your fears by planning thoroughly. But if you don't do it and you set up a fantasy and say, oh, I don't want to look at that negative side, I don't want to think about those challenges, then you're almost guaranteed to have a fear in the pursuit of your goal, because it's your intuition pointing out unconsciously what you forgot to look at and you weren't willing to look at. And so a real goal in strategic planning is designed to make sure you have objectivity. Reason, objective reason we call it. And to set a goal that's real. Imagine building the Brooklyn Bridge by Rebling. Imagine John and Augustus basically trying to build that bridge without a plan. Or imagine a big skyscraper like the Burj in Dubai. Or imagine any great achievement, what do you call the canal, the Great Canal in Panama. Anything that's amazing achievements, or a life that's not thought through and planned out, is left to chance. And there's a law in physics that if you don't fill your day with high priority ordering functions, it fills up with low priority distractions. If you don't negentropize your life by putting order in it and pre-planning with order, you get entropy and disorder. So your life is going to give you entropy and challenges that you don't want if you don't go after the challenges you want. And so leaders are ones that fill their day with challenges that inspire them, and they look for the challenges and they mitigate the risks and they use them to go and create outcomes that are enormously powerful. But people that don't do that, they end up having less likely. I love it when I go to some sort of new age groups. They basically say, well, if it was meant to be, it would just happen. That's not a real leader. Those are basically ungrounded individuals that are pursuing fantasies. And if it doesn't happen, it must, because when you're living by your highest values, you're willing to tackle challenge. When you're living by lower values, all you want is an ease. If it's meant to be, it'd be easy. Well, great achievements take skill and work and focus and inspiration and perspiration. And I don't want to feed people fantasies of thinking it's the other way. But the reality is that when you're doing something you really love to do, it just seems like you're in the flow, even though you're tackling those challenges. So strategic planning is a necessary component to reduce and mitigate the risks, to dissolve the fears, because the fears are there because we're setting up fantasies, and it makes sure we clear out the fantasy and we get real. And once you do, you find a way of getting your outcome. Now, you may find a better way along the way, so you can always refine the strategic plan. The strategic plans are not set in stone where you're stuck with them. They're revolving and evolving, so you can constantly revolve them and make them more refined as you go. So don't be afraid to plan. I think they say the people that fail to plan to fail. I think there's a great truth in that.
is when I've set up those plans, strategic plans, spent hours crafting them, and they were all based in fantasy, only to be disappointed, or vice versa. And I really do agree with you that putting in the time and the effort in a balance approach has been profound, and not Chandeliers profound, but I like how you said it more ground. I think the difficult challenge for all of this, and that brings us up to number 4 of our success secrets, is prioritization, especially when it comes to your daily actions and how to maximize your productivity and meaning around the task. So I think plan is fine, but as an entrepreneur, it's often difficult for us to, and we just get filled up. Could you expand a little bit on that? Which is
yes, I learned many years ago to start with the end in mind and work your way back. Ford Motor Company, Henry Ford, he would go out to the public and find out what the public wanted, what they're willing to pay for whatever they wanted. And then he went back to the manufacturing plant and he says, all right, here's what they'll pay. Here's what they want. We've got to develop that, and we've got to do it within that price range. So then they had to reverse engineer and figure out how to get what they wanted done, starting from the end in mind. So I always say, start with the goal, the end in mind, and work your way back and ask, what are the highest priority actions I can do today that can make me one step closer to that? And keep chunking it down until you've got baby steps. I would say little baby steps make big dreams, little action steps make big outcomes. And so you basically have to start with the end in mind and work your way back and literally micro structure it until you got down to daily actions. So I did that when I wanted to write my encyclopedia set many years ago. I've done that on the speaking career that I have today. And I'm constantly working on my master plan. I probably put more hours into it than most people. And I'm a firm believer that you need to prioritize things. And once you have that laid out, then on a daily basis, once you have a structure like that, you want to basically ask yourself something I learned from Mary Kay Cosmetics, the founder, Mary Kay Ash. Every day ask yourself, what are the highest priority action steps I can do today that can help me move one step closer towards my dream or fulfill my mission? And if you do that every single day, you'll get a pattern that you'll observe, and then you'll get to find out what the highest priorities are, the highest priorities are, highest priority actions in your life. And then if you delegate, as we'll cover the next step of success, if you delegate that, you increase the odds of manifesting. So I'm a firm believer in prioritization. I research, write, travel, teach every day. That's it. I've delegated everything else off the plate. So I learned that. And I learned that from literally writing, what are the highest priority action steps I can do today that can help me fulfill my mission of speaking around the world and inspiring people. And I did that every day on a card, index card. I have thousands of index cards I accumulated doing that. And then I looked at what was the common answers on all those over time. And I found that it was consistently teaching and researching and writing and traveling. So I went, okay, that's it. If I do that, the rest of it takes care of itself. So I then said, all right, I'm going to then figure out a way of delegating that, which we'll come to in a minute in another success secret here. But prioritization is the key. Anytime you're not living by high priority things and bringing order to your life, you're going to be dealing with low priority things that don't. I said yesterday in the breakthrough experience, and if people have never been to the breakthrough experience, find a way to come. I promise you that's a life-changing, that your life goes in a new trajectory the moment you're at that program. I'm absolutely certain about it. I've watched too many people go through there and seen the impact it's had. But in there, I talk about prioritization. And anytime you don't fill your day with high priority action, it's gonna end up with entropy. And the same thing in finance. Let me give you an example. Many people have unexpected bills every month, and they didn't anticipate this, and they were learning by trial and error what their bills are going to be. And that's because they didn't take the amount of the unexpected bill and put it at the beginning of the month into savings. If you take and find out what your unexpected bills are and find out what the total is, calculate it, and go put it in savings at the beginning of the month before you pay anything, the unexpected will drop, the order and organization will go up, because the universe will not give you wealth unless you take command of it. So you have to pay yourself first to do it. That's an old proverb. When you pay yourself first with foresight, you don't have to worry about it at the end, because people that think, well, if I get any extra at the end of the month, then I'll I'll save it. You never get wealthy that way. You get wealthy by making order out of your wealth building instead of waiting and seeing what disorder offers. So you have to prioritize your money. You got to prioritize your time. You got to prioritize what you say. You have to prioritize who you hang out with. Prioritize the responses. Prioritize what you do in your day. You want to make a list of everything you do in a day. You want to make sure that it produces the most per hour. You want to make sure it has the most meaning. You want to make sure that you find out what is wise to delegate, which ones are to do. By prioritization, the 20% that gives you 80% results, as Pareto mentioned. You want to make sure that you're also using your time by priority. And because if you're not filling it with the highest priority things, it's going to fill up with things that don't. Anybody who's run a business knows that if they have any idle time, weird stuff fills it. Strange stuff appears that erodes the day. So you have to have a full day. I keep in front of me an itinerary that has my day filled, and that itinerary is not left to chance. It's basically a consistently filled thing on a daily basis, 7 days a week, about how I want my life. And I found that if I fill my day how I want it, it doesn't get filled up with the way everybody else wants it. So it's easier to say no when you prioritize to other people, and it's easier to say yes to the things that are most meaningful to you. You have greater self-worth when you prioritize. You get more accomplished. You end up magnetizing people to you, because anytime somebody is living wisely, other people are naturally drawn to them. So you wake up your natural born leader. I could go on and on for probably hours on just that one topic. But prioritization is definitely a success secret of people. And people that don't learn that, they pay a price. But the people that do that, they get paid.
And I think in the times and the age that we live in, it's even more critical, because everyone's carrying a permanent distraction around in their pockets and their laptops. So, which is just filled. I like to say my inbox just feels like it's everybody else's agenda and not mine. So I try and push that out till the end of the day, so I can focus on my agenda and then get to everyone else's agenda later on. Which I think leads us to number 5.
That's why I don't use my cell phone too often.
It's a good secret.
People say, well, you use a cell phone. You don't have a cell phone with you. And I said, no, I don't carry a cell phone. They go, why? It's because it's very obvious. I want to take command of my life and live my life the way I want to, not everybody else bombard me with it. And it's easy for I see people who are strung to their cell phones all day long. You see them in the airports. Everybody's got on their cell phone. Now, there's a value to the cell phone, and there's a lot of efficiency you can be doing if you're using it wisely. So I'm not against it. It's just that it so easily gets distracted by social medias and all these other things that can take up people's time. If you're not filling your time with things that are meaningful, it's going to fill up with things that are meaningless.
Together, infrastructure, organization, efficiency.
Well, there's a thing that Michael Gerber and others in the management field have mentioned of how important it is that the structure of the organization, how you allocate jobs, etc. The organizational chart has a lot to do with efficiency. I was in a doctor's office many years ago when I was first starting to study organizational dynamics. And I looked at the way he did it, and he had people with more than one boss. He had many people handling the same objective, so there's no accountability, and it was just creating chaos. And what we did is revamped and prioritized what people were doing and reallocated job duties where it was a clear lines of authority, and there was infrastructure that was clean and clear. And so everybody knew what was accounted, who was accountable to, what was to be done when. I mean, we just put order in the system. Anywhere where you don't have order in the system, you get disorder. Anytime whenever you want to build business, you want to build wealth, there must be order. Money circulates through the economy from those who have the least order to those who have the most order. Money circulates through the economy from those businesses that have the least order to those that have the most order. Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to have some chaos, because at the cutting edge, you're going to be busy. But you have to have structure, and you have to constantly have somebody working on the business to bring order to the business if it's going to keep moving forward. And if you're not working on that, it's going to enterprise. It's going to break down. Entropy is a natural mechanism as a feedback to consciousness to let it know that it's not living by highest values. So the infrastructure of a company will determine the fate of the company. And taking the time, that's why when you sit down and you vision your company, you need to think of every different function that needs to be done. Every single function down to the finest detail, think it through. And then you need to structure it and organize it. And then as you hire people to fill in, to delegate things to, you restructure it. It's a constant remodeling and restructuring. It's not done and set in stone. So we're constantly remodeling as numbers of new people are coming in. Anybody that knows organizational dynamics knows that when it reaches a certain number of people, it's got to be restructured again. And then it's like a single cell organism going into a stromatolite, which is a bunch of single celled organisms living in colonies, and then eventually into multicellular organisms like sponges, and then eventually into complex multicellular organisms. As it's evolving, new structures have to be. Nervous systems have to be formed to be able to communicate between systems. And the same thing inside a business organization or a life organization. I was this week in New York as I was doing the breakthrough experience, and I was teaching people about order and organization. There was a lovely lady there that has 12 kids. And she's having in that, because her highest value is raising family and inspired and being spiritual. And she has to bring order and organization and delegation and infrastructure to the family. And that's the micro unit of a bigger unit of the society. And so it doesn't matter whether you're really running a business or some social organization or running a major family. Order and organization can make chaos into order or drive you absolutely mad. And a lot of people, they just don't structure their life and take the time to put infrastructure in place and allow them to make the infrastructure work on their behalf. So taking the time to make sure that you don't have unclear lines of authority, more than one boss to a person, broken up accountabilities where somebody can pass the buck to everybody else. Taking the time to go through it and structuring it properly will give you tremendous relief of aggravations and stresses that are totally unnecessary. So this is in concomitant with prioritization. The infrastructure is essential to make this business or your life work. And you have an infrastructure inside your own family daily life. So actually structuring your day is part of that infrastructure. Structuring your day the way you want it instead of just letting it randomly go about and then all of a sudden be bombarded with everybody else's expectations.
That's good. And to lead up to number 6, I just want to summarize on the 8 success secrets quickly. We've got number 1, which is determining your values. Number 2, purpose. Number 3, important, prioritization, which we've just touched on, and infrastructure organization. So I think all of those build a fantastic base to number 6, which I think most people in business, and that is the mastery of delegation.
Yes, I was 28 years old, and I opened my practice at age 27, and October 12th, 1982. And I did everything myself, and I had one assistant at the time. And she basically did administrative stuff. I basically did clinical stuff, but really we both did a lot of stuff. Within a short period of time, I realized that I was minoring in majors and majoring in minors. I was bogged down doing stuff that I didn't want to do. I mean, when I first started, I actually went around to clean stuff. I mean, it's crazy what I was doing. And I was not feeling like a professional doing those things. Anytime you do a job that is a lower dollar per hour job that you could have delegated to somebody else for a lot cheaper, you're devaluing yourself compared to what you can earn at your peak performance. You always want to find out what you do that performs and produces the most income and target that, and the most meaning and target that. They have to be overlapped. And when you do, you need to surround yourself with people that would love to do the things that you need to delegate. Because if you don't get somebody that would love to do it, you're going to end up delegating it and then micromanaging the people, and then you end up with a burden, and then you're going to be distracted from what's really producing for you, and then you end up thinking delegation doesn't work. Delegation works if it's done properly. It never costs to delegate if it's done properly. It only costs when you have incompetent people that you've hired because you didn't think through and make sure that the person who you're hiring actually looks forward and loves to do the thing that needs to be delegated. And that way they're accountable. And that way you're free to go on and do what you do best, what your core competence is. So it never costs to delegate properly, but it does cost to surround yourself with people that are incompetent that you think you're going to overrule because you need your ego massaged, and you get to D people instead of A people around you that you frustrate yourself with, because then you end up having to do it over again, and you're robbing them of accountability. if you want to be freed, you got to give people accountability, delegate things appropriately, make sure the lines of delegation are clear. It's written out clearly. They know what to do. They're properly trained. They're given the opportunity to learn through trial and error, get the feedback, until it's finally off your back. The first year in 1983, within the first year of practice, I delegated my accounting and financial materials off my back. Because I used to write the checks, pay the payroll, argue about the checks, question things, look to it, just bogged down in a $20 an hour job. I let that go at age 28. And I read a book by Alec McKinsey called The Time Trap, which, God, was a great gift to me. And it made me realize that I was in my way, and it made me prioritize and delegate more effectively and structure my infrastructure properly. And I'm telling you, if I haven't dealt with financial issues, I made sure that all the financial things are delegated. I relinquished it. I would write delegation demands to them. They would do it. I structured my finances in such a way where it really can't be screwed up. I mean, it's automatically electronically done, and emotions destroy wealth building, and electronic structures just get it done. And I freed myself up of that, and that was 34 years ago, 35 almost, and never turned back. So most of the stuff in my business that I once did, I let go of a long time ago. And I basically research, write, travel, teach. And even the research is delegated partly out, and the writing is delegated partly out with helpers and the editors. And so I basically speak and learn. And that's the thing. And you want to make sure you're structuring your life and delegating. You can only grow as far as you can streamline, prioritize, and delegate. If you're not willing to delegate, you're going to trap yourself. There's no way you can have a fulfilling life without delegation. And there's no way you can do a fulfilling life and delegate without serving people to have the income to do it. So you want to make sure that you're getting people that produce more than they cost and extract surplus labor value out of their work. And you make sure that you're going on and doing something that's extremely inspiring and meaningful that serves people, so you get paid enormously, so you can then save your money, invest your money, and go to work not because you have to, but because you love to. And delegation is absolutely essential. You cannot get where you want to go without delegation. I see mothers. The other day, I had another one in the breakthrough experience. Every week in the breakthrough experience, these principles I'm outlining, and I make them do it. And there's a woman in there the other day that says, well, you know, I'm bogged down with all this stuff, and I want my husband to help me, you know, manage the kids and everything else. And she was doing low priority stuff, and she was perfectly capable of earning at least a few $100s a month. I mean, a few $100s an hour in her work, and she was sacrificing that for doing a $10 and $15 and $20 an hour job. And I just scolded her, and I said, look, you're going to keep beating yourself up and devaluing yourself at home or at work when you're not doing what's really truly inspiring to you and meaningful. And she cried, and I was really tough on her in the breakthrough experience because I wanted her to break through and we did it. We broke it. And she and her husband agreed to it. They knew what they're going to do, and they're going to delegate it. And they're going to get help around them and get specialists around them that know what they're doing so they can get on to doing what their core competence is. Ricardo's law states that every government and every country has resources that give it a competitive advantage. And the truth is, everybody has an area of competitive advantage, and it's always the highest value. Whatever your highest value is where you have a competitive advantage that you compete in the world markets. And you want to make sure you're doing that. You want to surround yourself with people that you're delegating things to things that are highest on their value, so they can't wait to get up and do it, so you're freed. So delegation is a key to high success secret achievers. You can't do it without delegation.
And it's critical because in running my own businesses, I've seen when you've hired someone and you delegate a task to them and they just unmotivated to do it, and then you find someone else in a similar position who you've hired, but with unknowingly that those values match, and they fly with it. And you sit, when I didn't understand the context before, I'd sit and look and go, but how come they couldn't do it and how come they could? And now it makes it so clear to me. And the number 7 in our 8 success secrets of high achievers is governance over measurable.
Yes, when I was, again, at 28, when I started delegating more and more, I became, I guess you could say, an organizational freak. I literally mapped out and did my infrastructure and organization. I was really very detailed about it. And I put metrics in for everybody statistics and metrics in place to monitor and measure what people were accomplishing. And we timed things. I mean, I was very neurotic about it, but I learned it from studying Henry Ford and others. I monitored everything. I kept records of things. I kept documents of what they were accomplishing, how frequent they were doing it, how much they were generating out of it. Because when you got information like that, you can make wise decisions, and you can then go directly to what the issue is and know what to do to solve problems. We call it stats. We used to have stats of basically new patients, the number of office visits, how much dollar per average office visit, how much collections, the percent of collections. We had all these stats. We had about 25 stats we did, and we monitored every day. And then we had stats, about 3 to 5 stats per employee that we measured. You know, how many how many reports they were sending in, or how much things they were doing. Whatever, we monitored it. And I made sure it was the highest priority stats that I knew produced the greatest income per job responsibility. And by measuring it like that, I knew exactly what the company was doing. I could sit at the summary at the end of the day and look at it. Eventually, I farmed that out to my manager, and I trained her on how to do that. So I could do what I did best, which is basically envision where I wanted to go and delegate things and plan things out. But we had to monitor things. Today, I have a lovely lady in South Africa, in Johannesburg, Clarissa Judd, and she's doing that, and she does an enormous job on that. And she is able to see the entire company by doing that, and it keeps it objective. I'm thankful for that, because she basically goes out and does those things that I used to have to do, but it needs to be done. And so she's doing that, and she's great at it. And I'm the one that used to do that, and I became neurotic about it, because I found that the order and organization in my company went up when I did it. And you had to monitor, because things that are not measured and not governed and not controlled like that get out of hand and get chaotic. And you lose things. And it's better to keep a current on it on a daily basis than to wait it and let it find out the hard time later on. Go, oops, this is out of control again. Anything you don't give governance to and measure gets out of control. So that's a key of success, and that's your daily actions. I monitor. I set a goal to travel the world and to speak. I wanted to reach 7 billion people. Every time I do a radio show, I document how many people we're reaching. A newspaper, how many we're reaching. A webinar, a podcast, a speech. This webinar, in fact. Everything I do, I monitor, and I have a company that helps me monitor how many people we're reaching, and people come on the website, how many people come onto Facebook. Everything is monitored. And we get an idea what's working and what's not working that way, and whether or not I'm achieving what I set out to do. If I'm going to reach 7 billion people, by God, I'm going to have to measure it to make sure I'm achieving it. We've reached 4.2 now, and I know that we can continue to expand that, because we're doing the things and expanding it. Every day we get new opportunities to reach more people, and we monitor it. And so I'm a measure of everything. If I say I want to do a consulting for 1,000 companies, I monitor every single company, and I keep a record of it, how many companies we've done and what we did with that company. Every time I work with celebrities, I monitor the celebrities. Anything that I'm accomplishing, I measure it, monitor it. It's in my master plan book. I think that's why I get a lot more done in a year than most people, because I'm measuring it and giving myself feedback and finding out what's working and not working. And you remember in the breakthrough experience, if you haven't been to the breakthrough experience, find a way to get there, because what I give you is gold. And one of the things that I do is I go in there and I explain the questions to ask yourself on a daily basis to get more out of yourself. And if you're not learning those questions, for instance, what is you really would love to do, and how do you get handsomely paid to do it? Most people are going through life and going, how do I afford to do it? That is not a question you ever want to ask yourself. How can I get handsomely paid to do it? You want to get paid to do the things you love instead of having to borrow money to do it, or figure out a way of getting other people to do it. You want to figure out how to get rewarded by serving people, by doing what you love. And so learning questions like that can make a difference. And if you want to have a master of life, you need to govern and make sure you're getting what you set out to do. And I ask questions, and I get feedback from myself. Self-inspection is what I found common to some of the greatest leaders in the world. Gandhi was the first person to teach me that when I was 18. He did self-inspection constantly. And that is important if you want to go out and do something amazing with your life.
Looking at the numbers every day. When I needed to shift in my business, it was a simple thing of, what is my profit today? And every morning I'd wake up and say, well, what is my profit today? And then slowly but surely I saw that profit margin increased, because previously it was, how much money did I make? The value of the question shifted the entire outcome. So I can really attest to Clarissa's skills to managing those numbers because she managed. So earnings up to scale.
For just a moment, I lost a bit of what you're saying at the end there.
Sorry, savings reserves.
Oh, yes.
As point number 8.
The number 8 success secrets of high achievers are people, they have to value yourself, and you have to pay yourself, and pay yourself first. Up until age 28, I was good at saving money for things, but I never saved money for my wealth building until age 28. But from that point on, I learned how powerful that was. You must save and pay yourself first if you ever want to build momentum in whatever you're setting for. Because if you're having to work your whole life as a slave for money, you're not going to be inspired. You're not going to end up having the greatest opportunities as if you did if your money's working for you. You want to be the master of the economics. And so there has to be savings. So in my 6 steps to wealth that I've mentioned before, the 3rd step to building wealth that I mentioned in the breakthrough experience is that you have to save ever progressive portions of the profits. And what that does is it makes your company more efficient. I guarantee you, your company will get more profit margin if you will do that action. Increase your savings every quarter. Even when you don't think you can do it, just increase your savings every quarter. Pull out savings at the beginning of the month, stick it into something that's never to be touched. It's only allowed to be put into investments, and don't turn back. And watch how new business. I had 5 people in the breakthrough experience this weekend that put their hands up, said it's the best thing they ever did. And I can tell you right now that if you've never listened to my Secrets of Financial Success program, and you might want to listen to that about 5 or 10 times, your future finances are about to change if you do it. I outlined this in the breakthrough. We really covered that this weekend in the breakthrough again and again, because that was one of the big issues that people were having. They're having difficulties getting ahead financially. And many people have this fantasy they're going to get financially independent, but they never get there because they don't have the values and they don't have the structures. And once you structure it, once you value it, it's on its way. So you must save. And my dad tried to teach me that when I was 9 years old. I began that history, but it was always for things. And he was trying to get me to save for a longer purpose until age 28 before I really, really got that. And I've not turned back, and I'm financially independent because of that today. And I'm a firm believer that you must automatically save. You don't wait to see if there's any left over. Don't ever do that. You won't get ahead that way. You'll have entropy. If you don't put your money aside and put it in savings before, you're going to have all these unexpected bills keep eroding it. You go, why I can't get ahead? Why do I not keep getting ahead? Just save. Force it. Watch what happens. When you manage money wisely, you get more money to manage. And those 8 steps, determining the hierarchy of your values and determining exactly what's really important to you, clarifying the highest value, and making sure you're really targeting on what's truly your life demonstrates as highest. Strategic planning and making sure you plan it out and use the executive center with foresight, objectivity. Prioritizing things once you get that clarity, and making sure that you put the infrastructure in place so you can then fulfill what you want to do through people. And delegate properly so you can get people to do the things that you want for it. Measuring that so you can make sure that it's actually objective and it's monitored, and you get feedback before it's too late. And then making sure you save and learn how to invest your money so it's working for you, so you go to work because you love to, not because you have to. That's liberty. And I believe that everybody can do it. Even if they're raising a family, these processes can be done in a family, like the lady with 12 children. Whether you're dedicated to a social cause or physical fitness, I know a lady that was had a yoga center, and she started out with one little yoga center, and she was kind of a barefoot, impoverished girl doing yoga. And she ended up becoming a Rolls-Royce yogi before we're through. And we structured it and started franchising it and did a whole bunch of things with it. And because she started following these 8 steps. In the breakthrough experience, every weekend, I'm trying to outline how to use these things more thoroughly. I'm trying to help people break through the limitations in their life that they have because they're setting goals that aren't theirs. I'm showing them how to basically clear out the emotional baggage and use it wisely so they're not sitting there running their life by distractions. I show them how to basically own the traits of great so they're not sitting there subordinating to people, which is the #1 fears that they run their life by. There's absolutely no reason why you have to be living a life of desperation when you can live a life of inspiration. And I do that every weekend, trying my best to share people what they can do to transform that. So these 8 success secrets of high achievers, which I outlined in Breakthrough and the other programs, are essential. So just put those into action starting today, and you'll see a difference in your life, I promise.
Thank you, John. But these 8 steps are fantastic. But a lot of people say, working with the personal development people that said it, when you get to Thursday night, you run down a night to think of another weekend away, tired, and they don't have the energy or the inspiration. What would you say to those people who feel that way?
I worked till 3:30 working with some rabbis this weekend in the breakthrough experience, because I made a commitment that I was going to get everybody through that breakthrough experience. And we had some people that we took a little longer, so we worked till 3:30. I got to bed around 4:10, and I was back up and started it by 9, and had to be up and going by then. So when you really are committed to doing something, you find the energy doing it. Energy is infinite once you recognize its source, and the source is being congruent with your highest value. I did the breakthrough experience this weekend, 1,100th breakthrough. I've done 1,100 of them. That's how that is. And you never have a lack of energy for things that are really inspiring to you. You gain energy when you're doing things that are high on your priority. You're lower energy when you're not. And I worked last night again when I got through the program till after midnight, and we got out of there by 4. We were up and out by 4. And I'm telling you right now that energy is totally yours. Your vitality in life is directly proportional to the vividness of the vision. When you're living by your highest values, your executive center, your inspired vision, and you see it in clear detail because you've strategized it, your energy levels are much higher. You get way more out of your life. And I'm a firm believer that if you're not inspired by your life and you're drained by your life, you're doing low priority stuff. You're breaking every one of these rules that I just gave you, these success secrets. So if you want to do that, that's the whole reason I teach the breakthrough experience, to try to help people give their life possibilities, to help them become more effective and efficient at doing extraordinary things. And I'm absolutely certain that it works. And I've seen it work in my life and the people that followed it. And you can't just talk about it, you have to get in and do it. And that's why I'm tough on people. And I was tough on those people up till 3:30 in the morning, because I want an outcome. I want to see it. It only doesn't serve me to have people not get results. It serves me and others when we both get results. So yeah, you want energy? Prioritize your life by highest priorities and structure your life where you can delegate and follow these steps, and you will have energy. You won't have to lack of energy.
And that's brilliant. And I think you also touched on taking action. And I want to just, we're going to be putting up an offer in the right-hand side your chat box with an opportunity, an exclusive opportunity for the attendees of this webinar, where you'll be able to attend the 2-day breakthrough experience, 24 hours with in person, not a or he will take you through the exact processes that we've discussed. But before we get touched on, and you've mentioned a few times the breakthrough experience when we've been, someone would go through or experience on that weekend with you?
Well, the breakthrough experience is, as I just said, I did 1,100 of them. So that ought to tell you it must be important to me. I've been doing it for 28 years, and I don't know, there was a gentleman there this weekend in New York. He came up to me at the end of the program. He said, that was an extraordinary weekend. I can't believe I had no idea what I was about to get and learn. And he says, I don't know how you do it. You just seem to be just inspired from the morning until night. I mean, it's like you're relentless. And I said, when you get to do what you love and love what you do, that's the way your life is. And he got teary-eyed with me. We both got teary-eyed for a moment. And it says, why would you want to live life any other way? The breakthrough experience is everything I can to help people live that way. There's absolutely no reason why not to live an extraordinary life and inspired life. I really believe at the end of your life, you are going to ask yourself, did I do everything I could with everything I was given? And you want to be able to say, friggin' yes. And if you're not doing these 8 success secrets as I outlined in the breakthrough in here, and you're not living your life fully, and you're subordinating to other people, you're not going to do it. That's why in the breakthrough experience, I go through there and I teach them the Demartini method, which is the most powerful method of transformation I know out there. It's a science. There's no hit and miss. There's no guess. It's a science. It guarantees a result. You know you can get a result. You can dissolve pride and shame and infatuation, resentments and guilt and grief and every other emotion. I explained what exactly is an emotion, which is an imbalanced perspective. exactly how it comes about, what its distraction is, how to dissolve it, how to turn it into gratitude, love, inspiration, enthusiasm, certainty, and presence, where you're poised and you're present, you're powerful, and you're prioritized, and you're in a state where you're inspired. There's no reason why we can't live that way. And with the tools of the breakthrough experience, people can use it and put it in action. And doing the Demartini method and knowing how to do it on people that you think are extraordinary and own those traits, so you give yourself permission to play in the same field with them. I mean, I have amazing opportunities. I got to do a filming with a guy that's produced a lot of PBS specials and television shows. He does The View in the United States, which he's producer of that. And we're talking about doing a project, a television series. We got another television series dealing with the Infinite Mind that's going to come out. There's just opportunity after opportunity coming when you own the traits of the greats. And that's why I want people to know that in breakthrough. I want them to learn how to empower themselves and plan their life out and take command of it. So the breakthrough experience is my way of helping people transform their lives. That's simple. There's no way you can go through that without having a trajectory shift and a mind expansion and a heart-opening experience. I don't let people leave until they have a tear of gratitude and they see clarity and they're thankful for themselves and the people that they came to resolve issues with and clear the baggage. So I can go on the whole day about the breakthrough experience. It's a very powerful 2-day experience. Anybody who's listening knows what I'm talking about, has been there. And I can't wait to get up in the morning and do that. So it's fun. I get to do it every weekend.
And I'm sure you wish every day was a weekend the way you talk about it. So
well, I did 3 breakthroughs in 1 week once. I did a Saturday, Sunday, I did a Monday, Tuesday, and I did a Thursday, Friday, and then I did a Saturday, Sunday again. So really in 9 days, and people go, that's insane. I go, I know.
And I'm sure those people's lives try.
Oh, it's fabulous. We had more than, we had people than we expected one to come, and it's amazing. And so now I have more facilitators. I can handle more people to help. But I'm the one that delivers this program each time. And my daughter helps me also. She's traveling with me and now doing a lot of the programs with me too. But we do what we can to make a difference. We finished last night, literally after midnight, and we were coming back to the room, and she was down the hallway from me. But we were saying, it says, we patted each other like a high five at the end. I said, what an amazing weekend. And she goes, I know, we've made a difference in people's lives. I said, I know, isn't that fulfilling? It says, yeah, even though we didn't get much sleep this weekend, it says we're going to sleep well when we do get to rest.
Incredible. And I want that's in this audience not to sleep as well with you, John, and to take action on the offer that we have. We've got a 10% saving for the breakthrough experience now. If you see to the right-hand side, you'll see it's a very limited offer for this webinar. And we've also included, just to throw it in there and to get you excited for, an additional $400 saving, which is a free bonus that you get for another online course that you can. If you're interested in signing up to the breakthrough experience and joining with John, you'll just have to go inside on the webinar. You'll see there's an orange book now to a landing page. On that landing page, you're going to see the country of the flag where the breakthrough experience is running in your area. All you have to do is click through on that link and you'll get all the different specials and offers that are running in your area. So if you'd like to attend the breakthrough experience, I would advise you to click through on that for a little bit, and John and I will go through maybe 1 or 2 more questions, but you're not going to want to delay. This offer is while the webinar. We get inspired, get clarity. Any of the things that we've spoken about now in this brief amount of time, jump on that link, take action. You're not going to be disappointed. People now love to share with them with relating to their dreams or mastering their lives. What would it be, John? Just in closing, one last.
Well, I'm looking at this side. There's so many questions. I wish I could answer them all. You know, I said it. We said it with the 8 success secrets of high achievers. Those are really the nuts and bolts of making things happen. I cannot tell you that you have to give yourself permission to do what it is that you are inspired from within do. And you can't let the world on the outside distract you from what you feel is your mission. When I was 18 years old and I failed my first college class test, and I fought for a moment about whether or not this is not real for me, my goal of traveling the world and speaking, I really had a moment that I was questioning myself. And my mom told me something. She said, son, whether you become a great teacher, healer, and philosopher and travel the world like you dream, whether you become a great surfer or continue riding big waves, or whether you go on and become a panhandling bum on the streets, you know, I just want to let you know I love you no matter what. When she said that, I saw how much love made a difference. And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to master this thing called teaching and reading and studying and learning. And I was going to do whatever it takes and travel whatever distance and pay whatever price to give my service of love. And there was no turning back. When you have a no turning back attitude, it is impossible for you not to do extraordinary things. And that's the key about these 8 secrets. That's why I do the breakthrough experience. I want people to get to a no turning back process. I want them to get that clear where there's no option but go forward and make things happen. And I think that attitude where there's no turning back, it's impossible for you not to fulfill your mission on earth. That's the place. That's how I feel I am about my mission. And that's why I want people to do the breakthrough experience, because they'll say thank you. They'll say thank you. I promise you, they'll say thank you.
Hi, John, we lost Brandon. I don't know what happened to his internet. But yeah, I think that just about sums up everything. If anybody is keen to join John for one of his breakthrough experiences, it's really worth it. I can talk of personal experience. It's life-changing. And yeah, just do it. You will not be sorry. Oh, I think we've got Brandon back again. Brandon, are you back?
You there, Brandon?
And well done on those that have taken action already. I've seen there's quite a few people that took the leap of faith. You will reap the rewards. Let's just see if we can get Brandon back.
I'm seeing all the thank yous on the side. Whoever is out there, thank you for joining us on this webinar. Thank you for what you're doing in your part to go and do something extraordinary out there. I wish I could answer all the questions that are bombarding. There's no way I can do them all, but just thank you. And please find a way for us to meet, and please come to the breakthrough experience, because that way I can share these principles with you, and I know it'll make a difference in your life. I know that if I to meet you there, we'll hug each other at the end of the program, and we'll go, all right, new trajectory, time for a new life. I'm not sure what happened to Brandon on this, but maybe there's a higher order to everything, and I think that may be what's happened here. The circuits of the electronics out there got blown the fuse or something. It's quite fun.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, these things happen in our modern technological age. We think we've got it all covered. Oh, Brandon, you're back.
Oh, you're back. There he is.
I just had to run out because I wanted to jump on the offer that John was talking about, and I got a little bit carried away, and I clicked out, and I clicked the wrong button. So apologies to everybody in the audience. I got a little bit ahead of myself, but I know you're in good company, and John can keep you occupied for days, as he will at the breakthrough. Sorry for that for everybody, but all heard what John had to say, and I would just like to get through experience and the additional free bonus. So if you are at a stage in your life where you want to get inspired, or when you clarify your life mission, you want to deal with past issues that are still affecting you, you want to solve any relationship issues you may have, things that are affecting your health, your vitality, coping of a loved one, loss of money impacting your life, your business, or any other thing. Those are just a few of the elements that we know that could be handled. And I'm sure there's a lot more that are going to come out if you attend the webinar and we'll be able to add to this list. So I would recommend that you jump on that offer. Click through it. John, I want to thank you today. It's been amazing, and once again, I've learned so much from spending this time with you. Again, apologies to the audience for a little bit of the. We're back on, and we are here. If you'd like to attend. John, is there anything you would like to say in closing for the people?
Yeah, all I know is I'm looking at all these thank yous that have come in. Thank you, everybody. I just want people, you know, there's nothing more inspiring, absolutely nothing more inspiring than hearing the stories of people's lives who have made a shift and changed. I had a gentleman that came up to me the other night, and he says, I came to the breakthrough experience. I was saving nothing. I started that day, literally the day after I left the breakthrough experience, I started that day and I started doing what you did, $200 a month. He said, I am doing $2,000 a week now. I'm saving $100,000 a year. 1 year later, he says, you cannot understand what that means to me. I now know I can be a multimillionaire in my life. His wife had his arms around him, and she says, I never thought a year ago that we were going to be in this position. Thank you for one simple question, one simple answer in the breakthrough experience that changed our financial destiny. One simple thing like that. Had another girl there that was sitting there trying to decide, what do you want to do with your career? She was trying to think, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just finishing college. I don't know what I want to do. I'm sitting there doing. She came to the breakthrough experience. And she decided that she wanted to learn this material, and she's now going to be our facilitator. She wants to do that as a career. She said, now I know why I was delayed in learning it. I had to be here at the breakthrough to decide this is what I want, the career I want to be. She's now going to join us as a facilitator and going to help me help people with the tools. She says, now I've got something certain. When I was studying the psychology in undergraduate, none of it seemed clear and certain. It was just wishy-washy. Now I have a tool that's certain about people's lives, and that is the most inspiring thing about what I get to do. Do not have that in your life. You want to be able to know that you on a daily basis and metric the impact you're having on other people. My gratitude journal today is as much other people's stories of success than my own. That is more inspiring to me to hear that. I guess as you get older, and that becomes more and more significant. And I really believe that that's what we all deserve to have. So whatever it is, make sure you're doing what you're really inspired to do that makes a difference and serves people, so you get the fulfillment of that. These 8 steps will help you. I know the breakthrough, without a doubt, helps on that objective, and you deserve to have that. Don't settle for anything less than what you really, really want in life. It's crazy.
Thank you, John, and we'll excuse you because we know you've got a busy day. That itinerary we saw with our time that you spent with us this hour, and still available. We'll keep it open in the room for a little bit longer. You'll also, this room will also get an automated email just to say thank you, and also a link to view which we will. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.